Every single cover I've posted, a member of the band or the entire band has acknowledged it and reached out and shouted me out, which I could not be happier about.
Right.
That's the one that hasn't gotten any attention.
Mm.
And
Everyone
it's
go tag Celine Dion because
seriously, as soon as Celine sees that, I can die happy.
sweet. Well, let's jump into it. This is another
Excellent.
episode of the Scoped Exposure podcast. I'm super excited to be sitting down with a homie on the Vancouver front. Jack, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited to be chatting with you today.
Absolutely. And for maybe the, 6 people that might not know who you are or what you do, can you give me a little intro on what bands you're a part of and how you be known?
Well, I'm a drummer from Vancouver, British Columbia. I'm also an audio engineer, mostly known from my band Wasted Breath when we were still around with a lot of good friends from Vancouver here. I'm now in a band Burn Away with Mason from Wasted Breath and a few other friends and Mason's brother on vocals. We're looking to start getting things going again here. Mason's brother just moved back from Manitoba.
Yeah.
So we're super excited to actually get the ball rolling again. But of course, since everything is happening right now, we're going to have to take a few more patient steps until we can get the ball rolling again.
Right, a little slower than you'd like, I'm sure, and definitely want to talk about both of those bands. But Jack, I'm sure you know the trend as far as how I like to intro all of our guests is get a little bit of context on how they got into music, a little bit of their history, I guess. So, can you talk about those like formative years, maybe some of the experiences that kind of led you on the path to being an audio engineer and being in bands?
Absolutely. I mean, well, music first started out for me when I was pretty much just a child. One of my mom's favorite shows was Coronation Street, and the opening theme of it had a really cool bass line, and I had no idea what the instrument was until I asked her. I'm like, "What is that?" And she said, "That's a bass guitar." And then next thing you know, I want to play bass, and here I am several years later. I'm playing bass, playing drums still, and bass was the first instrument that I wanted to play. I wanted to be in a band with some friends, and my best friend Kyle, we were pretty much the same age. He was a couple months older than me. He got a bass guitar for Christmas in 2007. And then, so of course, since he got one, I had to get one too. So come March 2008, I got a bass guitar for my birthday, and I was absolutely thrilled. So him and I started a band where it was just the two of us just playing bass, nobody else involved playing the exact same thing. We thought this is absolutely genius. Mm-hmm. Nobody else has ever done this before. We're just two bass players, nobody else. Right. We got our heads out of our asses and realized we need to actually get other people involved if we want to be a real band.
Yeah.
So we got everybody together, and one thing led to another, and eventually we ended up needing a drummer again. And I was the best of the worst, and it was kind of brutal to say because at the time I sounded worse than throwing a tin can down a hallway. So it took some time for me to actually get my footing with drumming. So it was about 3-4 years of sounding like absolute garbage before I started to really get my footing. And next thing you know, drumming is kind of my main instrument. So yeah. I've just decided that that's where my passion lies. I just have so much fun while doing it. And here I am today. I'm very happy to say that I'm doing fairly well with it. And aside from Wasted Breath and Burn Away that I mentioned, I've been in a lot of other session musician stuff, studio stuff, live stuff if needed, as well as my best friend Kyle that I was talking about. We're still in a band together. We've been in a band since that very day. Our band is called Etheria. We're kind of like an alternative metal band. I don't really know how to describe us. We have a little bit of a Trivium sound, a little bit of an Iron Maiden sound. You have some hardcore influences in there because I'm drumming. So of course there has to be some slow dumb caveman stuff.
Yeah, hard to get away from that when that's so in your veins.
Exactly. It's I'm gonna throw it in there somewhere. I'm like, hey guys, but what if we just slowed it down here? And I mean, most of the time they're okay with it. Most of the time it works. So right. I can't complain too much. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much where I'm at with music. That's where I got to where I am today, and can't complain.
Yeah, I love that thought of just like not being physically like capable of not throwing a hardcore twist on some stuff when you're trying to write in some other capacity. I love that.
It's when you feel the best, when you feel like the song is at its very best, you have to throw it in because it's just the tastiest kind of stuff.
I know we're not really a mosh band, but this might be the song that people mosh to if we write it this way.
Exactly. Exactly. And I mean, a lot of the time when we do play those songs live, it's exactly like that. It's when we play that song, everybody's like, oh, okay. Oh, they went there.
Yeah.
All right.
They went there. Yeah, that's sick. Well, like I am definitely happy that we're doing this podcast now because I jokingly said I'm like Jack's gonna get too famous where he's not gonna be responding to some of my DMs, but
No, never, never.
you're definitely getting a lot of notoriety and maybe more awareness than maybe you anticipated in the last little while with some of the drum covers that you're doing. And like I was just before the call, I was like looking at you recently covered Drain,
Yes.
sick one, and like it had doubled in views by like just yesterday.
Oh yeah, it's unbelievable, honestly.
Yeah, and so from the visual standpoint, I think the thing that most people see, whether it's a Wasted Breath set or a Burn Away set on the Scope channel, is that you have one arm and you're drumming.
Yes. It's missing.
Yeah. So obviously there's like a story behind that, and I think we can dive into that as much or as little as you'd like, whatever you're kind of comfortable sharing.
I'm more than open. I do a lot of motivational speaking at schools and workplaces, so I'm very open to it. That goes for anybody that watches my videos. If you have any questions, I'm open to it. I'm open to jokes as well. I'm a pretty easy-go-lucky guy. I mean, I've heard the Rick Allen joke more times than I can count, but
right.
It's all in good fun. So I'm always open to anything like that.
Yeah. Can you kind of tell me how that accident happened and kind of what were the things going through your head when, those first moments where you were kind of having that realization of like, I'm a one-armed dude now?
Yeah, I mean, on September 4th, 2015, I had an unfortunate workplace accident where my hand got stuck in a conveyor belt when I was doing some maintenance on it. And unfortunately, of course, it resulted in my arm being severed at the elbow. I blacked out when my hand got stuck in the roller initially. And when I woke up, I just remembered that my hand was stuck. I didn't look down. I didn't see anything. All I knew is that the right side of my body was pretty much numb. So I got myself up and I ran outside as fast as I could to get myself help because I was pretty much by myself, no walkie-talkie, no anything.
Yeah.
As I'm running outside, I ran past a coworker of mine, and when he saw me, he trained in color like Sylvester in Looney Tunes, like when he gets scared, just completely. Right. I kid you not. And that's when I realized, shit, I need help. I'm screwed. Mm-hmm. And when I got outside, I yelled for help and laid myself down. And I didn't look down. I just knew that whatever it was bad. And if I looked down, it would have prevented me from getting help.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
So I had some people come up to me and help me out. I was holding hands with one of them, and I realized that I couldn't feel anything. And almost as a joke, I thought to myself, I wonder if my arm's there. And then I started to realize that it might actually be real. So I asked the guy, I said, is my arm there? And he hesitated for just a moment. And as much as that was more than enough of an answer, I still needed to hear him say it. And he said, I'm sorry, buddy, but your arm is gone. And I mean, as human beings, we're not meant to lose a limb most of the time. I'm pretty sure we're supposed to last the whole lifetime with all four.
Yeah.
So it's not something you really know how to react to.
Sure.
As a drummer, it's life-changing. You typically need all your limbs to play drums. It's one of the things. And so for me, that was crushing. Everything I had done in my entire life from the time that I started working to that very moment was with the passion and goal of having music as a career. Mm-hmm. And now mix in the fact that I was 17, I was like 3 days away from going into grade 12. That was life ending for me. I was pretty much just devastated. Yeah. And pretty much right away, I realized that I just have to deal with it. I just have to figure things out. I was sitting on the spot. I started air drumming. Everybody started laughing. And I was like, okay, you know what? I can figure this out. Yeah. I can definitely manage this. I know that I can figure this out. Yeah. I went to the hospital. They tried to reattach the arm. I had to sign a waiver pretty much giving them permission to perform further amputation on what was left if it didn't work. Mm-hmm. And of course, when I woke up from surgery, it was not successful. The arm was far, far too damaged. Yeah. The nerve endings were far too mangled, severed. It was just a bit of a nightmare. But at that point, I'm like, you know what? I have no other choice, and let's just see where this takes me. And
Yeah.
I was only in the hospital for about 6 days, and then I went to physical rehab where I was there for just less than a month.
Yeah.
And then I was able to get back into my 12th grade year 1 month after everybody else started, graduated on time. And yeah, that took me to far, far places that I never expected to get. That's for sure.
Yeah, like man, I was getting like a little choked up just like hearing you talk about immediately like in the midst of all that chaos, you're like, I gotta figure out how to do this one-handed like that. Wow. Yeah, and
It's
sorry, you go.
it was really a very strange experience for me because again, I didn't look, so I had no idea what the damage was. So when he said my arm was gone, I'm expecting up to the shoulder, like up the shoulder's gone. It was right beside a hospital, like 2 minutes away from a hospital. And when the paramedics showed up, they started radioing in everything. And then I heard the paramedics say arm severed at the elbow. And I'm like, hold on, give me a minute. There's still some of my arm. And he's like, yeah, from your shoulder to your elbow is still on your body. And that was pretty much what told me, I'm like, this is fine. And as demented as it sounds, when you go from thinking that you lost your entire arm to then hearing that you pretty much only lost half of it, that's it makes you feel a lot better. And I'm like, well, I can get a prosthetic then. And of course, in the moment, I thought, yeah, the prosthetic, I'm going to be like Terminator. I can go rock climbing, shoot lasers out of it. Not the case. Right. Definitely not the case. But yeah, not yet. Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, no, it was a very whirlwind of emotions and events in that very moment for sure.
And like I know this maybe this is a stretch as far as a way that I can like compare like a small injury that I had compared to your like boss level, and I'm just this little pawn. But
yep.
I don't know if you can see there's like a kind of scar. So shout out to A Day to Remember, like mosh songs. Essentially cut open the top portion of my finger and like I could see my bone gushing blood. And I remember I was going to the hospital no, I wasn't even like, I went to the hospital, but I was sitting like screaming in the middle of the night. My mom's like coming down, putting a towel on it. And I thought immediately like, I can't play guitar anymore. And it was like a process, like you said, like what happened. And this podcast is about you, but I'll just share this little story about me. But
please.
I had severed my tendon, so when I got it sewn back up, I could only lift it about that high. So I had to go back. They reattached it, and then physical therapy, kind of like you said, just to get the function back. But I
get everything going again.
I was default like, yep, that's it for guitar. Like, let's see if I can hold a mic or do anything. But
exactly.
Yeah, it's kind of a crazy like wake up call to be like how fast things can change in your lifetime like that.
Absolutely. I mean, it really is it doesn't just happen to everybody else kind of situation. You can say that for yourself as well. I bet you never expected to be in a situation where you thought you might not be able to play guitar again.
Yeah.
And so of course that's just a message for pretty much anybody out there is watch yourself, be very, very careful because things happen like that, like very fast. So
yeah. And like you said, on the drumming front, like, the drumming is an instrument where you do utilize all of your limbs, both your hands, your feet. And, like a timely example of another drummer who's kind of, showing his resiliency in drumming is Andrew from the Ghost Inside.
Absolutely.
And,
Absolutely.
I'm sure that you guys have a lot of things to chat about because for you it's your arm, but for him it's his leg and his dominant playing leg for the kick drum.
Absolutely. And it's breathtaking to see the measures that he's gone to develop a new drumming style and to still have such consistent and flawless skill. A few years back when I met Travis Barker, he was telling me a story about how he broke his arm one time and he had to basically play with like a foot trigger as well. And that led to a conversation that he was telling me about him basically getting in the prosthetic that he had wasn't working for him drumming. My cat's here now.
No, that's okay. I've had multiple podcasts this week get interrupted by my dog, and luckily he's just passed out right now. So
She's a little needy, so she may be yelling at me for a bit. But
no, that's
but
okay.
anyways, back to what Travis was telling me. What he had managed to do instead of using his prosthetic is he rigged up like this kind of like pipe and hose mechanism on for a leg,
Yeah.
and it ended up working way better for him than a prosthetic for his dominant leg. And so I don't know what he's developed since then, but just hearing that was only like a year and a half after his accident,
Yeah.
developing these things to help him drum better. It's so cool to see, and I honestly can't wait to see what comes of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like I said, like things can happen very like very quick as far as changing the trajectory of your entire life, but I am a firm believer how humans are so powerful in adapting and figuring out how to make shit happen, whether it's opportunities or just like making things work on their personal side. Because
Absolutely.
And I hope this, and I'm sure your story is a great reminder to people like, okay, well, if this guy can do it, then you can as well. If
Definitely.
God forbid that, they're in a similar situation like that.
No, definitely. And I mean, I couldn't agree more. If it takes a lot to be able to accomplish the things that you want to accomplish, no matter what kind of inconveniences, traumas, disabilities you might have gone through. At the end of the day, everybody has their worst thing that's ever happened to them. And one worst thing is no worse than the next. It's, if somebody broke their leg once and now they can't walk as well, and that's the worst thing that's happened to them, that is their loss of limb. My loss of limb may not be as bad as someone who has lost a mother, but at the same time, it is still the worst thing that's ever happened to me. So at the end of the day, we all just have to be understanding of each other and understanding that we've all gone through some really serious stuff. And, we just have to support each other in getting to where we want to be going and things. And if we do that, then that's how we can accomplish everybody doing exactly what they want.
Yeah. More empathy as always.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's transition to some of the bands that you're a part of. And obviously like being in like Wasted Breath is how I found out about you. As far as I think the very first time I caught you guys or just saw you in person, I don't think we chatted at that fest, but that was the 2017 Calgary Fest, I believe.
Yep. That was an absolute blast for sure.
Yeah. So, that band has now been disbanded, but I think you guys really made a wave as far as, your guys' presence. And, I'm always a fan of seeing new bands come into the scene that introduce new people that might not be like the, this person has been in these legendary bands, so to speak.
Of course. And, I appreciate you saying that about Wasted Breath. It was an absolute blast. We when we released the Extinction EP, it definitely got a lot of attention really quick. And it resulted in us playing a whack load of shows right after that EP. Yeah. And then we realized, we've exhausted all of our songs and we haven't really prepared for much else yet. Yeah. And then at that point, we realized, a lot of us, save Mason and I, are wanting to kind of do different things. And so, of course, Jordan is in Juice, and, of course, Worldview, which is back together. Thank the Lord, Worldview is back together. Yeah. Adam is now in Culminate, which is fantastic. And, of course, Mason and I were still following in the same pathway. Mason and I have been, this is probably, I think, our fourth or fifth band together since back in the day. We first were in a band together in Deception Falls. If anybody remembers Deception Falls, I just say what you will.
The deep cut bands is always welcome on the show.
Oh yeah,
because I always get a podcast comment where they're like, "I never thought someone would mention this band in 2020."
Yeah, that's definitely one of the bands. I mean, for a lot of the Vancouver folk around here, they'll know what I mean when I say it was an Olympia Pizza Core band. And for those that don't know, Olympia Pizza was literally a pizza shop in Surrey with a stage that was like 5 foot by 5 foot. And if for some reason it would hold all of the hardcore and metal shows there, it was a gong show. It was just a nightmare. But that's where Deception Falls' home base was. And that was back when Mason was the vocalist and I was the bass player. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, we disbanded from that. And then Mason formed another band with Adam Parrish. That was Regression. And I joined that band as a bass player with Mason on vocals still, disbanded. And then we all formed again with me on drums instead, Mason on bass, and then Jordan on vocals, because Jordan was wanting to do some vocals, and he absolutely kills it. I mean, I still remember when he was in Dead Hand, and he would play and do vocals or do the backing vocals for things. It was just absolutely unreal. Yeah. So I mean, it was definitely really cool being in a band with him for a long time. I respect Jordan, and of course I definitely respect Adam as well. And seeing them still doing their own thing and in their bands is fantastic. And Mason and I were super excited to continue working together. I mean, him and I were like a well-oiled machine. We're two cogs that really work well together, and I'm thankful to have that.
Yeah, but well, especially when you've done so many bands together, it like becomes so like easy to write, because you guys know like, okay, like I'm gonna write a part like this, and like it's just the experience of jamming off one another is huge. It really goes a long way. It's
a good camaraderie, good mesh. A lot of times he'll play something and I play the beat that he had in his head. So it's we're definitely very excited for everybody to hear what we have coming out next after the World Lay Therapy. It's gonna be intense.
So let's jam on just I'm getting tangled. Let's jam on the writing aspect, because obviously growing up learning drums and things like that, like in your brain you're thinking about like, okay, like this is the muscle memory, but I'm sure when you were like, okay, now I'm drumming with one arm, like I guess like you over time adapted a new form of muscle memory as far as like how I'm playing fast parts, how I'm playing slow parts, certain fills. Was that I'm sure that was over a few years of like really fine tuning that?
Absolutely. I mean, right off the bat, when I started drumming again, I sat down at the drum kit exactly how I had it set up before. So, crash, ride on my right side, chine on my right side, hats over here, just a standard setup. And after a while, it was very counterintuitive, because, going from here to here, from hi-hat to snare is one thing, very short distance. Going from ride to snare, it's a mile you have to stretch. And a good friend of mine, Mike Malays, he's the world's fastest drummer, actually. He reached out to me and sat down with me. He's an absolute genius and a phenomenal drummer. If people don't know about him, look him up, Mike Machine, just mind-boggling. He helped me out by kind of telling me, you need to be thinking of a one-arm drummer, not a two-arm drummer. Sure. You have a left hand, put things on the left side. And originally he helped me out and helped me by moving my cymbals and positioning them in a very ergonomic way that helped me play responsibly and proper without hurting myself. Yeah. That included all my toms on the left side too. Over time, I just started to develop my own kind of feel for it. And while I still keep all my cymbals on the left side because it makes the most sense for me that way, and my rack toms are also offset to the left, I keep my floor tom on the right, because at the end of the day, I had so much experience with doing fills going to the right. It was more natural for me to keep that flow of going left to right as opposed to right to left. It just kind of felt like backwards. Yeah. And so that's why I still keep my floor tom on my right side, just because naturally that's what I feel like doing. And when I'm doing fills, I can accomplish the speed that I had before to make it sound like I'm just with just one swift stroke. So
and that's the thing that's trippy for people who will listen to a Wasted Breath EP or Burn Away or anything that you've drummed on. Like listening to it, you're like, okay, this sounds normal, but then seeing it, it's like it's almost like hard to put it together in a way, because you're so used to just being like that. But like on the Drain video, the fact that you're holding the stick like this, crazy, dude.
Yeah, that's a little trick I developed. I can't actually remember when I started doing that. I think I just did it for fun when I was like, oh, I can do blast beats still, and eventually I started getting enough strength and dexterity that it started getting enough power to actually work. Right. I think the first time I actually tried doing that, I was filling in for the Boys in Backbite for a couple of shows when Luca wasn't available, and there was a lot of blasts in that, and so I had to do that, and I'm like, oh, this works. And I haven't written anything to utilize that yet, but when I went to do that Drain cover, it was just so damn fast. And you can see when you watch it, when I have to go and do it on the ride, going, that's hard enough as it is. Doing that twice as long on the hi-hat as well, I couldn't do it. So I was like, screw it, let's try this cross stick technique, and it freaking worked. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be something I have to start using. And apparently a lot of people were blown away by it. And I mean, maybe two-arm drummers can start utilizing that as well, doing some crazy unreal techniques, holding the stick and doing hat and snare. I don't know, the sky's the limit at that point.
Yeah, and it's like, it's pretty, like when they drop that song, I'm like, okay, so this is just a minute long, like it's 30 seconds of just absolute, just pedal to the metal, like fast thrash hardcore, and then it just slows right down. So like, I always think of those songs on Guitar Hero where you're like, okay, I have to get through this really fast part to get to the more manageable section.
Exactly. I mean, it's, you listen to that song and it feels like you've ran an entire marathon in just that 50 something seconds. And when I did that cover, it felt like that. You can see me at the end of the video. I feel like most of my other videos, I like to keep a good energy and keep it bopping. But in the Drain video, I'm like, and so I mean, it was definitely a breathtaking accomplishment for me, and I'm glad that the fellas in Drain enjoyed it, and I'm glad that everybody else enjoyed it. I think it's I woke up this morning and it was at 45,000 views on Facebook somehow, and Twitter is still at about, I think it's almost at about 30,000 views, and that's huge, because it's not only huge for me, but it's exposing Drain to people who maybe have never heard them before. And I think Drain's a fantastic band. When I first saw them, when they did the DPK 5-year pre-show, I was just blown away. And so I'm happy that they're getting exposure as well from this. It's really cool to see.
Yeah, I am a major fan of that band, and I think, in a separate timeline where they could be on tour right now, I know they're getting the notoriety and respect that they deserve, and wish nothing but the best from them.
Absolutely. When everything is over and they go on tour, it's going to be murder.
Was full on going to be wearing a Hawaii and like bathing suit at Wild Rose, just like, I thought about doing like pool noodles, like
bringing out one of those blow up dinghies, and boom, like that would just be unbelievable. Just knowing
full well, like before my parents moved, my house back at home, they had like an in-ground pool, and I think this is just a fun little anecdote if they ever listen to one of these episodes in full. But they had a giant blow up turtle, I think, and you could get like a few folks on it. And then one of my neighbors, they had family over and they were using our pool, and he just like, they all jumped on it on the same time and it just exploded. So I imagine that would happen if there was any full size floaties at a hardcore show. It would be over in 3-4 seconds if best.
Oh yeah, it would be demolished within minutes.
Right. So to go back to the drum covers you're mentioning, you've done a couple other ones that have really popped off. You did a Neck Deep cover. You did Harm's Way. Harm's Way is getting tons of love on social media these days.
It's so
drum
cool
cover of you, little
Shania
Twain memes.
Too good.
Yeah.
Oh, that's also really good to see for Harm's Way. I mean, another band that deserves all the attention. Got to be one of my favorite heavier hardcore bands, whatever you may label them as. It's just fantastic to see bands like Harm's Way getting that kind of attention, whether it be through memes or whatever. I mean, people are going to see who's on stage and be like, that band looks like they're playing really tight, even though this is damn Shania Twain. It works really well. And so of course that's going to gather attention. So, I mean, support your local bands, because, they can't be big without being local at first. And that makes me super stoked to see all these bands breaking out.
Yeah. It's really crazy on how just a twist of something can really just explode.
Exactly. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. You're asking me about the
drum covers. Yeah. So, my personal favorite still to this day is the Celine Dion one that you did. More so on the editing side, because you were superimposing, like, I guess, sections from the music video in there. What was the thought process behind that? And can you tell anyone who hasn't watched that, like, what that drum cover is all about?
Well, I can't take any credit for any of the video editing in my videos. I've done not even a scratch of that. That's all my good friend and old roommate Sam Anderson Brown. He was my roommate. He had to move back to Australia at the end of March. There, actually, the day I released that video.
Wow.
His 2-year visa expired, so he's moved back there. He's going to be coming back, but I still send him all of my videos to edit. He's an absolute genius. He's an amazing skateboarder, and his eye for filming and editing is phenomenal.
Right.
And when we did that cover, it was a joke that me and my girlfriend Courtney had, that it would be super funny if I just did a cover of that, because everybody knows that fill at the end, the back to and it's just that pops off anytime, like no matter where it is, like it's on site, that is, you are going to throw down to that. And so I thought it would just be hilarious to do something like that the entire cover. And so that video is an entirely improvised cover. Like I had never played it before, and it just was whatever I was feeling at that time. So the sloppiness is because I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But I told Sam, I'm like, just have fun with this, make it look hilarious, do whatever. And I have no idea where he got the idea of putting in Celine, but I could not stop laughing. Like it was one of those laughs where your mouth is wide open and no sound is coming out.
Yeah.
It was the funniest thing. And I'm glad that everybody else enjoyed it too. It was an absolute blast. But yeah, all the credit for the editing for that and all my other videos, that goes to Sam. Follow him on Instagram at Sam Anderson Captures. He's got some fantastic photos and filming stuff. And
I would highly recommend, if anyone's feeling down due to quarantine and whatnot, go watch that video, because it'll put you in a good mood for sure. I definitely noticed that a lot of the the bigger names that you had covered, like even you did a cover of like a Lights song and she reposted it, and I don't know if you got in the DMs with her or anything, but the Celine Dion, did she see it? Did anyone in her team see it? I'm just kind of curious.
Every single cover I've posted, a member of the band or the entire band has acknowledged it and reached out and shouted me out, which I could not be happier about.
Right.
That's the one that hasn't gotten any attention. And
everyone go tag Celine Dion, because
seriously, as soon as Celine sees that, I can die happy. That's going to make me such a happy boy. Or even DiCaprio, if Leonardo DiCaprio sees that, shouts out Titanic, solid movie, great job.
Yeah, I'm always like, certain things with like Instagram, when you're DMing people like that have that, large, just, she's an A-list celebrity, easy. But, you're like,
any day.
I know me tagging you in the story is going to just go straight to message request purgatory and be there to die. But hopefully, hopefully at some point. And then I can take this clip and slam it with that retweet or whatever it is. So we'll
absolutely.
Yeah, we'll have to see. So as far as the like, obviously the quality of the drum covers is there, and I'm sure a large percentage of that is because you're a producer, so you know how to make things really pop on the mixing side.
I appreciate that. No samples, all natural drum sounds. That's so if anybody's ever questioning if I've used triggers in my videos or samples, the answer is no. The first bout of videos that I filmed was at the absolutely beautiful Warehouse Studios, which is Brian Adams' studio here in Vancouver.
Yeah.
My girlfriend Courtney works there, and so she managed to get me in there for a day to do some covers. So
yeah,
all the sounds from there is going through the amazing gear there. And my next bout of videos that I'm in the process of releasing is all filmed at the studio that I have a spot at, the Lindsay Music Studio in Port Coquitlam. Cool. And that's all run through my personal stuff and everything. And so I appreciate it. I'm glad that it's translating well. I'm glad that people enjoy the drum sounds. I take pride in it for sure.
Yeah. I don't know if you added extra reverb on the Celine Dion video, because that one fill just sounded like monstrous.
That's the room at the Warehouse Studio. You go in there and it's the 80s. Like it is the sound of Summer of '69. Even that wasn't recorded there, but you can tell it has that energy of that song.
Yeah. So is there any, like, I'm not sure exactly when this podcast is going to be dropping, but I'm sure. Is there any upcoming covers that you want to tease? Maybe one that you're posting tomorrow, because this podcast won't be up tomorrow for sure.
No worries at all. Yeah, the next cover that's coming out, I mean, keeping it in California, the same day that the Drain album was dropped, our boys in Rotting Out dropped an album as well, and
Very true.
very happy to see them back. So I've got a nice fun song from that album coming out.
Which song? If
Reaper.
Very cool.
It's going to be very, very fun. It was definitely one of the most fun songs I've ever drummed. It was unfortunate because I was really hoping for the drumming in Burnaway to be documented from you guys at Scoped at a live show.
I know.
That was the main goal, was to have a drum cam from you guys be posted first. But because of everything that's going on, and considering we're wanting to, move on to new material away from A World Laid Bare, I've done a drum playthrough of the last song on the EP, Suffer Eternal. And so I'm going to be posting that soon as well. For anybody, I've had a few people ask if they could see a video of me doing the intro and playing that song. So I'm very excited for that.
Well, I remember you did a small video before that EP came released.
That was
just like, Jack, what's going on, dude?
Chill, man. Chill. Yeah, that was actually of the tracking for the EP. That was the intro to the title song, World Laid Bare. That video is actually the very take that we used for it too. That's how stoked I was on that take.
Sick. Yeah.
That video popped up out of nowhere. Like when we posted it on our Twitter, I think it capped out at 155,000 views. I have no idea what happened there, but that video is pretty much what told me. I'm like, oh, I guess people want to see me drum.
Yeah.
I guess I should be doing this more. And, averaging at 20,000 views a video, I can't really complain about that right now.
No, it was, I think the show that you're referring to was that last Backbite show, which I was going to be at, but just due to things and early time of the year, it wasn't ideal. It was like my birthday was like two days after that, and there was other things in the mix. But it is still on my list to get an official scoped Jack Thomas drum cam.
And I await the day. I'm going to be very, very excited about that.
Yeah. I'll say two quick things, and then we'll go back to some of the other stuff. But the first thing on the drum cam front, as soon as we go back to it, I think I'm only going to be doing full sets now, because I'm starting to release more full sets, because I was just picking 2 songs, and then I'm like, I think that's enough. But the full sets is like really like, it was just a no-brainer as far as like, there's no point in me to sit on those songs.
Totally.
I think originally it was like, I'll just pick the 2 best songs, because there might be a flub or breaking a stick or whatever. But
that stuff is what makes it the best. I mean,
it's true.
Throwing it in there a little bit more about the videos. There's parts in the videos that I do screw up. There's parts where I will flub. I'll miss a beat. I'll rush something, and my stick. There's got to be a handful of times in every single video where my stick gets stuck underneath my hi-hat and I have to pull it out. Actually, it happens in the Lights video in the second verse. You can see me get my stick stuck, and then I kind of stutter a bit.
Yeah.
But I leave that in there to show people that I do it all in one take, because nobody does it perfect. If you do it perfect, great. I can't do it perfect.
You're right. Mm-hmm.
But I love that stuff, and so it's gonna be super cool for you guys to be releasing that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's gonna be fantastic to see the entire video as natural and raw as it can possibly be.
Yeah, and I think like there are definitely certain songs for certain drummers or certain bands where it's like that song has this crazy fill or this crazy like double ride hi-hat part or whatever it is. And I think the plan going forward, and we have a bit of time to wait until shows come back, and then we can execute on this. But the plan is to run a couple GoPros on certain drummers, so we can do the full set as one angle, but then we can have maybe 1 or 2 songs that are cut between a couple GoPros.
That'll be so cool.
The issue that I guess we'll just have to play with for each show is like where we place them, because if we just stick it on, if if the fest or whatever the show is just using one drum kit, perfect. Then
Yep,
nothing.
set.
But if we just throw it on a ride and then I'm not paying attention, then my GoPro's going in some band's van, then it's like, oh
Yep.
shit, like
It's going back to Idaho.
Yeah, exactly.
Going to Boise.
Back to Boise. So that is something that I guess I wanted to tease because you kind of mentioned that. But the other thing is, as far as talking about the Reaper set or drum cam that you have coming up, I've been trying to think too about like, if we can't film shows to help promote bands, during this time, like what are small things? And for the playlist, we're going to be, I think, once a month doing a feature on just music that was released that month. So by the time this is out, cool, we might have refreshed the playlist a couple times, but the one in April is going to actually have that same track on it, the Rotting Out song.
That's going to be super sweet. That'll be, because
I listened to it, I was like, these vocals are wild, man.
Oh man,
just insane.
When they released that single, I was just like,
yeah.
It was one of those things where your face just got stankier and stankier as the song went on. Then by the end of it, when I release the video, you'll see me when it gets to that breakdown part. It's just going to be, oh yeah, just the filthiest stuff. I love that kind of stuff.
So kind of we got off track, but let's go back to the covers.
That'll happen with me.
Yeah. So a couple drum covers coming out. When you film everything, and then you're doing all the mixing yourself, correct?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And
engineering, mixing, and stuff.
Yeah. So talk to me about just like just the process of like doing things as far as like recording yourself and not trying to be overcritical and and are you recording bands as well, kind of in the regular world?
In the regular world, I am recording bands, and I'm still being consistent and stuff with that. One of the main bands that I record, we'll get to the drum video part in a moment here. One of the main bands that I do record, they're called Officer Trip. Good friends of mine for years and years and years. They're I think one of the best ways that they were described is that they're NHL loading screen music. So just like purebred handlebar mustache rock and roll.
That's sick. I love that.
Beautiful sounding stuff as well. Vocalist Taylor Vesper, he's got one of the best voices. He's one of the people that I played music with from the very beginning of my career in music, and so him and I doing this together is fantastic. So yes, I do record bands and mix stuff. All the Burn Away stuff and Wasted Breath stuff was all done by myself as well. So anybody looking for that kind of stuff, I'm your boy.
Yeah.
Including drum sounds for drum covers and stuff. So
yeah. Have you found that there's like, I guess like things are a little different on the live aspect with, drumming with one hand, but like, using a mouse, have you found there's difficulty with that in a way, or is it just like, I'm just using my left hand?
For the first little bit, it was definitely a little bit strange, but I use a trackball mouse, and so it's literally just a ball, and so I can keep my hands still. It works quite well, and I've got quite a bit of dexterity in my fingers now, so when it comes to engineering and things like that, it really isn't too much of an issue. And at the end of the day, when you are mixing, editing, engineering, whatever, you're using your ears. It's entirely an audible thing.
Yeah, sure.
And so I'm thankful that I'm not deaf or anything like that. I think if I was deaf in my life, that would be far more catastrophic to me personally than losing a limb is. So
that's
definitely thankful to have my ears still.
Yeah. Is there any, we talked about a load of different bands, but is there any specific drummers that you take inspiration from, or, maybe they've lost a limb and maybe they're not getting the same amount of attention or anything that maybe you are right now? Anyone you want to shout out?
Well, I mean, there's definitely a lot of drummers out there that have been more than inspiring for me. I mean, shouts out to Ratbeard and Alexis on Fire. I was super stoked that he reached out to me because I personally think he's got to be one of the most underrated drummers out there.
Yeah.
It's his drum. I grew up on Alexis on Fire. I grew up on his drum beats. It's just breathtaking for me. much bigger name, but I have to admit my biggest influence in drumming is probably the Rev from Avenged Sevenfold,
Oh yeah.
because when I started drumming, Avenged Sevenfold was my favorite band at the time, and so I grew up trying to learn all of his drum beats and stuff. So a lot of my faster, more hectic kind of stuff comes from the influence of that. And I mean, also shouts out to Danny from Neck Deep. When I met Neck Deep when they came here in Vancouver, I chatted with him, and he actually ended up asking me if I wanted to do a drum solo on stage with them, which was one of the greatest things. I mean,
Whoa, that's crazy.
When my accident happened, Neck Deep was my favorite band at the time, and honestly, I can safely say they're still easily one of my favorite bands. And so for him to do that for me, I was just blown away, and I was learning their songs as the first songs I learned to drum with one hand, because again, they were my favorite band. So having that, Danny's a very technical drummer, even in a pop punk band like Neck Deep.
Yeah.
They managed to add a lot of technical and crazier aspects to the music, which I absolutely love. And Danny's drum beats are so sweet for me.
Does he have a little bit of a hardcore background? I think there's parts of my brain that are firing off on that.
Yeah, the whole band has hardcore backgrounds. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they formed and started out as a hardcore band. I'm not sure if that is true, but yeah, I mean, Danny has easily hardcore backgrounds and heavier music backgrounds. I've noticed a lot of the stuff that he posts is on the heavier side of things. And for example, on their last album that they put out, they had a feature with Sam Carter from Architects. So just goes to show, that song absolutely goes. I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
So you can definitely tell, and from Danny's drum beats, just the amount of speed and technicality and just delicious chops that he lays down. That there's a lot of heavy music influence in there. And so for me personally, that was really important for me to be practicing when relearning how to drum.
Yeah.
And so for him to reach out to me, and him and I keep in touch on a small basis. We follow each other on social media now, and when I posted those Neck Deep covers, he was really stoked to see them.
Right.
Next time they are able to come through town, we're definitely going to meet up and do some stuff. So extra shout out to Danny for being such a good guy and a good friend to me for sure.
Yeah.
And just laying down some nice beats.
Yeah, there's always those formative bands where you're able to, have it come full circle, and so like being able to be on stage and do something with them is like super cool. And have things continually happen in the future, hopefully, is
absolutely
awesome.
Absolutely.
I love that that the Rev was one of your big influences, because I was there's a lot of closet Avenged Sevenfold fans that I'm sure who are listening, and
oh yeah,
it's I'm a true believer in no guilty pleasures. I think you just like what you like, and
exactly
I'm a big City of Evil self-titled fan.
City of Evil whole way down, just oh man, riffs for days. I mean, Stepping Stone can vouch for that. There's definitely some riffs on City of Evil.
Yeah, that's for sure. I would say like probably the newest Stepping Stone album cover is very similar to the City of Evil's artwork as well.
Yeah, there's the whole can I copy your homework? Yeah, just change it up a little bit aspect there. And I mean, big shouts out to Stepping Stone as well, though. They're I think when I saw them at Wild Rose 2018, I was not only stoked enough, but drunk enough to come out of Mosh retirement for that. I don't necessarily go in the pit too much anymore. It's just a personal reason. I just don't, I'm not as prone to recovering from things as quickly anymore. And I'm also a lot more prone to getting injured way faster.
Sure.
When Stepping Stone came on at Wild Rose, it compelled me to say screw it and endure some pain for a little bit.
I'm gonna have to rewatch that. Is that that's the year of the jerseys, correct?
The year of the jerseys, absolutely. It's also the year of Reed's fedora. So
the sun hat.
The sun hat, yep.
Yeah. I know. I will. I just love that visual. Anytime I think of it, I'm like,
oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah. So, to kind of jump back to recording some bands, is there any bands that you're in talks with to record, or bands that you would like to record, or even bands that you would like to drum cover eventually one of these days?
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole whack load of bands that I'd like to record. I mean, I had the pleasure of recording Juice's first demo. That was still when I was, in school learning audio engineering. So well, I've definitely developed a lot more skill since then. But any kind of local band, I just am more than happy to record, not only for my own personal sake of enjoying their music, but because it's very important for me to have bands get their music out to the world. And I would like to provide an affordable way for people to do that and still make it sound really, really good. So,
Yeah.
Any bands far and wide that do want to record, I have a space that I am able to do that for affordable rates. And even bands that just need things mixed. Again, that's kind of where my specialty lies, is in mixing. I would like to do a lot more mixing in my career. Right now, things are kind of just put on a complete halt when it comes to tracking and recording right now. So nothing in the works as of yet, which is unfortunate. I finished up a lot of stuff right before the pandemic started with Officer Trip, and was with some of my own stuff and a few friends' bands as well. But at the end of the day, I'm just whenever we are ready to get back out there, it's going to be very exciting. And when it comes to bands that I want to drum cover, honestly, the sky's the limit. I've got some Metallica in the works. Definitely going to be doing some more punk bands like Bully here. Wearing Bully band shirt. Definitely a really solid kind of, alternative punk band from south of the States.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I've gotten quite a few requests as well. I've got a few requests for some Code Orange covers.
That would be cool. I would love to see that.
That'll be definitely really cool. I think My World was the most popular one. I posted a story as a joke, but I think I actually have to do it now, as people actually want to see me do a Def Leppard cover just because. So I think I'm going to be doing that there. But
I mean, you opened the gates with Celine Dion. Like it's not too far from like the not cookie cutter drum cover song, so to speak.
Exactly. No, I mean, it's gonna be interesting. I kind of just think of covers as they come, and I mostly do things from suggestion. And when people make a suggestion, I just get stoked on it. So I'm open to ideas. I've got a whole list of ideas that people have given me. So
yeah, do you have an upload schedule in case someone's like wanting to tune in for certain things, or are you kind of just like, I got something, post and move on with your day?
I have been doing weekly covers since late February, usually on Tuesdays or Wednesdays. Occasionally I'll throw one in random, but I've been fairly consistent with at least one cover a week. I'll usually record multiple covers at one time, and then sit on them and then release them as the weeks go on. So if you are interested, this bout of covers is going to be released at noon on Tuesdays.
Gotcha.
So that includes bass and drum covers. There's also some bass covers in the works. Next up is actually Waterfalls by TLC, just because that is one of the most tasty bass lines in the entire world, and I decided that I wanted to figure it out. So
sick.
Yeah,
and I'm well aware of knowing, like, of having an excess of content and sitting on it and knowing how, because there are people who film shows and they'll just throw up all the sets, and it's like, I think there are people who are like, yes, I can watch what bands I want to, but at the same time, like, I want to give each thing that I'm posting its proper showcase. And
absolutely. Don't want to saturate it or oversaturate it.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, I know when quarantine hit, like, I went crazy and I recorded 8 podcast episodes in like 4 days. So I'm almost on the tail end of releasing those. And I know even with this, like, we were talking even a few weeks ago, and I was like, okay, well, let's do it in a few weeks, because I need to get through what's currently on my plate. But
absolutely.
Yeah, glad we got to finally do this.
This has been very fun so far. I've been enjoying it. You're definitely asking some very solid questions, and
thank you. I'm
having fun answering them.
I'm always trying to up my game as far as being comfortable with people, and especially with this whole, like, doing everything through Zoom now. Like, I think I hesitated for a bit to do any, like, online interviews, but I feel like the fact that we can reach whoever now is crazy.
It's super cool for sure.
Yeah, but B, it's also just, a convenience factor. Like, I think originally we were going to do this for Wild Rose weekend because you were going to be in town, but
exactly, which would have been absolutely fun. But you're absolutely killing it with these Zoom podcasts. It's you're a born natural for it for sure. And
That's
when
so
we can
nice.
meet in person, I would love to do an in-person one as well. Just like a rehash, catch up again. But
Absolutely. Yeah. They're
you're doing fantastic for sure.
hopefully the whole Celine Dion mention gets happened by then. But
Oh, that would be
yeah,
super cool.
yeah, we're trying to make it happen here. So as we wrap up, Jack, obviously the thing I like to bookend all these episodes is a favorite mosh story or a favorite show story. If you can't think of a mosh moment, for sure. But whatever comes to mind. Obviously, it doesn't need to be you like knocking someone out, but if anything you saw, like even at a Wasted Breath show or anything that comes to mind, that's
Well,
how
I
we
mean,
end.
when back in the day before I started going to hardcore shows at 333, my friend Dakota was the one that originally introduced me to the scene at 333. And him and some others had told stories about how they had gotten punched in the face or kicked in the chin or hit in the face with a boot or something like that. And I remember it was like my second or third show there. I don't even think Wasted Breath was formed yet, and Taylor Stewart jumped up on stage and went to do a stage dive, and I looked up at the wrong moment and I got a full Timberland boot to the face, and it sucked. It definitely sucked. But if like it was like at that moment, I felt like I'm one of them now.
Right.
I'm a part of the scene now.
Right.
I definitely don't think I'm super as known or involved. I'm definitely not the most talkative guy at shows, but I feel happy to be a part of such a fantastic scene that is specifically the Vancouver hardcore scene. It's amazing bands have come out of the scene, and amazing people have come out of it as well. And it's just so great to see people getting the recognition and success that they need. And I really do think that us, as well as the Alberta hardcore scene, as well as even the Portland hardcore scene, just like all of us, the whole Western area of hardcore, it's amazing to see how everybody has come together as a family. And while I may not be a huge part of it, I am just happy to be a part of it, and I'm very happy to consider these people good contacts, such as yourself. I mean, I met you through this entire Western hardcore scene, and it's very very meaningful to me to have that there. It's without the support that I've gotten through these scenes and everything, I would be absolutely nowhere where I am today. And so it's just really really cool to see, and I'm thankful to be a part of it. And so getting that boot to the face and having me feel like I was officially initiated into the scene, it was a really cool moment, and can't complain about that at all.
Yeah, it's pretty funny on how just like a small thing like that I'm sure there's been plenty of boots to the faces that have propelled people out of never going to hardcore shows again. But
That's true.
It's it's very weird when something like that happens, and in your DNA you're like, this is okay, and this is cool. So yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Shout out to all of Vancouver hardcore. Shout out to Portland hardcore.
Absolutely.
Alberta hardcore. You're getting all the calls on this podcast.
Yeah, it's hard to list every single band that's out there and everything that's what's happening right now. But I mean,
Yeah.
Shouts out Juice, shouts out the boys that are in Wasted Breath, still doing their thing. The boys in Backbite, Culminate. We have Worldview that's back in town. We have Your Problem. Go listen to my band Burn Away. We have Stepping Stone. We have everybody possible. It's anybody that is unaware of what Canada and Western Canada is doing for the hardcore scene. Check it out.
Yeah.
Get it together. Get your ears some good listening that's happening, because there's a very solid music out there. Dying Wish as well, from Oregon.
Yeah.
They're a honorary Canadian hardcore band at the end of the day. So,
It's true. Yeah. They've been welcomed in for sure. If they all moved here, they're like, okay, you're a full blown Canadian band now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I could not agree more. Again, there's a lot of bands to list, and it's when you're put on the spot, it's almost impossible to list all the bands. But even
sure.
Drain, Rotting Out, Harm's Way, just listen to all these bands. Bully, friggin' Neck Deep. I don't know, anybody. Music is important right now.
We're doing band t-shirts. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's important. Just listen to bands, find new bands, enjoy them. It's how we are gonna survive all this for sure.
Yeah. And on those words, I think there's no better way to send things off. Jack, thank you so much for coming on. What are your plugs as far as how people can keep up with you, keep up with the drum covers? Any social tags, please say them now.
Okay, Twitter at Jack Thomas Drum, Instagram at Jack Thomas _, YouTube.com/Jack Thomas Drummer, Facebook.com/Jack Thomas Music. You can go to my website, jackthomasmusic.ca. It's a good one-stop shop to see everything that I've done for music production wise, my story, my covers, and everything. Keep up to date with my weekly covers. Again, coming out every Tuesday, Wednesday or so for the foreseeable future. Check it out everywhere. Full videos will always be posted to YouTube, so don't just watch that 1 minute clip. There's a whole lot more that's going on in the YouTube videos.
It's true.
And again, shouts out to you. Thank you so much for having me on the show. Shouts out to Scoped Exposure for really helping put the Western hardcore scene out to the world and back on the map and have people get attention. Without guys like you and everybody that's involved with Scoped Exposure helping these bands get known, we wouldn't have things like the Wild Rose Hardcore Festival. And also shouts out to the boys that and girls that put that together. It's absolutely amazing that that's something that we can have in our vicinity now. Having bands like Harm's Way and Drain coming to play these shows is just absolutely unbelievable. Even Knocked Loose was coming up. They went from 0 to 100 real fast. So
it's pretty crazy. Just like first off, shout out to all the Wild Rose Hardcore Fest organizers. And it's crazy to think about the very first time that I filmed that festival, and the headliners were like Take Offense and I think it was Sebulba and Power played that year as well. But to go from those bands are great and they have their own niche scenes and fan bases and whatnot, but to get to the level where you can take the number of out of town bands and times them by 4 is truly something to be proud of. And
breathtaking, honestly.
And I think Scoped is just one cog, and Wild Rose is a cog, and Vancouver Hardcore is a cog, and I think together we're all really making things real special out here and catching the eyes of
I could not agree more.
Many people. So I love how you painted that, and thank you again, Jack, for coming on the podcast and chatting with me.
Oh, I couldn't be happier to be here. Thanks again, Matt, for asking me to do this.